If you've watched this channel for any decent amount of time, you probably recall a far left-leaning character we used to deal with. His name was Steve Shives.
Using sperm.
Well, in recent years, Steve's become somewhat of like a Star Trek YouTuber, and that shit just bores the tears out of me, so I don't really watch much of his stuff anymore. But he came out with a banger recently that we are going to have a look at. You see, Steve is just about to tell us about how everything is snazzy shit.
Your Nazi shit. Your fucking Nazi shit. You do your Nazi shit. You don't get to do your Nazi shit.
And we will get into it right after this quick sponsor. Law enforcement agencies are committing warrantless searches on people, all with digital data provided by Facebook and Google. This comes after police began prosecuting criminals in 2023 by using data provided by tech giants. Even if you're not committing any crimes, your data could be used against you and your privacy invaded by law enforcement. Social media tech giants are not on the people's side. This is why I highly recommend VirtualShield. VirtualShield allows you to browse, stream, and work anonymously and securely from anywhere. It can help you avoid the prying eyes of advertisers, hackers, and ISPs on nearly any website. Along with anonymous browsing using military-grade encryption, it also comes with a strict no-log policy, unlimited bandwidth across all devices, and built-in malware and ad blocking. The best part is you can get a risk-free 60-day trial of VirtualShield for 73% off by using the link virtualshield.com/bear or clicking the link in the description below. This extended free trial is only good for a limited time, so sign up before it's too late.
Last month, U.S. Senator from Pennsylvania, John Fetterman, checked into Walter Reed Medical Center to be treated for severe depression, something he's struggled with all of his life. Senator Fetterman took this step on the advice of Dr. Brian Monahan, the attending physician of the United States Congress.
Yeah, so John Fetterman's that guy that won the Senate seat in Pennsylvania, I think, and he's had like 2 strokes. He's suffering with depression. He can't speak without a computer, like a literal computer. He's basically retarded. And Tucker Carlson came out recently and said, well, maybe if you're that retarded, you shouldn't be in a position of power, like a senator. You know what I mean? Now, what does Steve Shives think of this?
Tucker Carlson is a shameless piece of shit, one of the most contemptible people on television, and, I can't stress this enough, a liar. But his lies, his manipulations, his denigrations, they have a distinctly familiar ring, don't they? Look again at what he's saying about Fetterman, and by extension all people who suffer from mental illness. He characterizes Fetterman's depression as a breakdown, as cracking under the strain. He calls him incompetent. He says that a society that elevates mentally ill people to leadership positions is doomed.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably a fair point. You tend to not want mentally ill people at the top of your society, like ruling shit. I thought that was common sense.
The message Carlson is sending to his viewers is clear. The mentally ill are weak, broken, incompetent, must be kept from positions of leadership, and can't be trusted to take part in our democracy. There's a term I like to use to refer to attitudes, such as those expressed by Tucker Carlson regarding mentally ill people. Nazi shit.
No one's saying that mentally ill people can't take part in democracy, Steve. They probably just shouldn't be in positions of power. I mean, you guys are always saying that the big mustache man from World War II was mentally ill. Personally, I just think he was a massive cunt. But doesn't that debunk your point?
A society that elevates mentally ill people is doomed. That's some Nazi shit.
Yeah, but to what degree of elevation are we talking, Steve? I don't think we should be elevating severely mentally ill people to the top of society. Or am I just being a snazzy?
And Tucker doesn't reserve his Nazi shit for people with mental illnesses. At the end of that segment about John Fetterman, he spreads it around, using sperm, to another marginalized group. This way of thinking is destructive for everyone. It's not empowering, it's grotesque. And if we continue, we might wind up with people dressed in admirals' outfits pretending to be women. That could happen. Then he cuts to a clip of Dr. Rachel Levine, describing herself as the first female 4-star officer of the U.S. Public Health Service Commission Corps, then back to Tucker, who says, now, that person is obviously mentally ill, but so are the rest of us if we accept it as normal. Dr. Levine is trans. Tucker describes her as a mentally ill person pretending to be a woman. Like I said, Tucker is a piece of shit.
Yeah, okay, what else you got for us, Steve?
Michael Knowles, a host at the Daily Wire, gave a speech at CPAC and said this. For the good of society, transgenderism must be eradicated from public life entirely. The whole preposterous ideology at every level.
Yeah, look, personally, I don't give a fuck if you're trans. You go do your transness. But what Michael Knowles is calling for here is the eradication of an ideology. Now, any bet, Steve is going to say, Michael Knowles is calling for the extermination of a certain group of people.
Calling for the eradication of a group of people? Nazi shit.
Told ya.
Knowles has insisted that what he said is not Nazi shit. He got kind of pissy with Rolling Stone for a headline that said he called for the eradication of transgender people because, he insists, he didn't call for the eradication of trans people. He called for the eradication of transgenderism as an ideology. Oh!
Well, yeah, that's what he did, Steve. Now, like Michael Knowles or don't like Michael Knowles, transgenderism is kind of an ideology, isn't it? I mean, there's transgender rallies, there's a transgender flag, there's protests, there's activists. As much as you would have loved him to, he wasn't talking about individual people, Steve.
So he's not trying to get rid of transgender people, just transgenderism. Like how men's rights activists don't have a problem with women. They have a problem with feminism. Totally reasonable for normal, non-bigoted men with no psychological hang-ups whatsoever who are completely secure in their masculinity to want to get rid of feminism. So yeah, Knowles is on solid footing.
Oh, Steve, you dove, you don't want to go down that path. Talking about men who are comfortable in their masculinity.
Nazi shit.
Yeah, all right, what's next?
Nazi shit.
These aren't doubled up, by the way. It's not like I'm repeating these clips. He really wants to force it into our heads that shit he doesn't like is snazzy shit.
Magnus Hirschfeld, the German doctor who spent his career researching gender and sexual orientation and advocating for the rights of LGBTQ people in Germany in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, was repeatedly assaulted by Nazis as the party rose to power throughout the 1920s. Then, in May of 1933, 2 months after the Nazis took control of the Reichstag, Hirschfeld's Institute of Sex Research in Berlin was raided and its library archives, tens of thousands of books and journals containing decades of Hirschfeld's work, including research on gender identity and various forms of gender-affirming care and gender-affirming surgery, were hauled out into the street and burned.
Okay, fair enough. At least that's some actual real snazzy shit, Steve. Do we have anything else left in the tank? Any more snazzies?
Ron DeSantis gets pissy when you call out the bigoted, intolerant, authoritarian legislation he's imposing on the people of Florida for the Nazi shit that it is. People who do Nazi shit always hate it when you call the shit they do Nazi shit because that makes it more difficult for them to get away with doing it.
Wait, do you mean like banning sex changes for kids and shit? Is that what you're talking about? That's what you're talking about, isn't it? And like sexually explicit books from kids' libraries? Is that the snazzy shit we're talking about, Steve?
They're outraged at the injustice that they can't just do their Nazi shit and get away with it.
But what Nazi shit, Steve? What are you talking about?
They want to be able to do their Nazi shit and have the rest of us not even call it what it is. According to them, trans kids can't have gender-affirming health care.
So not chopping children's genitals off is Nazi shit.
Pregnant people can't have abortions.
That's strange. I thought the actual Nazis were right into their eugenics.
School teachers can't even acknowledge the existence of queer people, much less offer support.
Yeah, I don't think that's true. I think they're just like not allowed to have queer stuff in their curriculum. I could be wrong, I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong.
They cheer for these bastards as they talk and do their Nazi shit, and then when they get banned from Thanksgiving, they piss and moan about that. What's the world coming to? I can't even see my grandkids. I'm a victim of the woke agenda.
Well, that'd be a bit harsh, banning a grandparent from Thanksgiving because of different political views.
No, dumbass. You're a victim of your family deciding they're sick of putting up with your Nazi shit.
Well, I think we'll leave it there. He says Nazi shit a whole bunch more times. None of it really makes sense. Now, I'd tell you to go watch his video for full context, but nowadays that's like harassment or something. It's probably Nazi shit. So don't harass Steve. Don't be a Nazi, I guess. Anyway, if you have any comments, leave them down below or at my super duper gay half stepbrother-in-law's Twitter account, B Skills. I'll see you in the next one.
Recession!